Hello everyone. As always, it seems like your timing is perfect. I just finished getting the fire ready, and I have another tale for you. So why not take a seat, get comfortable, and relax. Just don't go wandering off. I wouldn't want you to get lost or be led astray. Stay on the trail. Everyone always says this. Don't go off the beaten path, or you might not find your way back. I never liked listening to these warnings. Hiking has always felt so adventurous. So naturally, I wanted to venture off and explore. I never had any trouble with doing this. I always had my flashlight with me, and was always good at finding my way back to the trail. One day, I decided to go exploring on a trail I'd been on multiple times, and I knew it like the back of my hand. But this time, I wanted to go a bit deeper in and see if there was anything I could find. I set out at about 2 p.m. with a full water bottle, my flashlight, and a map of the area just in case. It was a beautiful day and the sky was clear, which allowed the sun to dance through the trees and illuminate the dense forest. The trail in itself is pretty long, a nice loop around a mountain that takes roughly 4 hours to complete. But I wasn't interested in the trail. I was aiming to walk to the center of the forest, just to see what I could find. I decided to step off at about the midpoint. There was a nice rest area here, and this is where the ground was the most level, so walking off wasn't too much of a hassle. I planned to just walk straight in one direction till I reached the trail on the other side. It was only 4 o'clock, and looking at the map, this seemed like it would only take, at most, 2 more hours. So I smiled, took a big drink from my water bottle, and began to walk into the deep woods. Since the path was no longer carved out, the trees were allowed to grow more freely, randomly jutting out from the ground wherever they could. The first hour was very easy, but the trees were slowly getting thicker the deeper in I went, and all the light that had joyfully danced around me had started to diminish. By the time I reached what I thought was the center of the forest, it seemed like night had fallen. So I checked my phone, and it only showed as 5 p.m., so I should still have some form of natural light. But the forest around me had become so dense that not even one beam of light was able to shine through. I was astounded. The trees had created their own night here, and it was beautiful. I got lost in wonder for a few moments, but quickly snapped back when I realized just how quiet it was. There was nothing. No birds, no wind, nothing. It was just empty. Chills began to run down my spine. Quiet is one thing, but the sound of emptiness is terrifying all on its own. I quickly pulled out my flashlight and looked around to see if anything was there, but the forest remained still and unmoving. The only shadows cast by my light were those of the trees that now surrounded me. I tried to look through the canopy above, but this was to no avail, as there was nothing to see other than leaves and branches. I tried my best to gather myself and figure out which way I had come from. But at this point, it all looked exactly the same in every direction. It was as though the forest didn't want me to leave. But then, I remembered that no matter which direction I walked, I was bound to hit the trail loop at some point. So I took a deep breath and just started walking. I walked for what seemed like an hour, but nothing was changing. I thought for sure the tree should be clearing up, and I would be getting closer to the trail. I checked my phone again, and it had only been about 15 minutes. Your perception of time can easily be skewed in different situations. Joy and happiness tend to make time fly, but fear makes time seemingly drag on. And I have to admit, I was feeling a bit scared at this point, but I continued on walking in a straight line. I've been through this area many times. I thought I knew exactly where I was going. 6 p.m. It was 6 p.m. and I had seemingly made no progress. I was lost, turned around in a dense forest, that empty sound all around me. So I decided to sit down and catch my breath. I needed to center myself. I knew that if I started panicking, then nothing good would come from it. So I found a nice tree, sat down, closed my eyes, and took 3 deep breaths. But when I opened my eyes, I saw what looked like little burning embers floating in front of me, casting a warm glow all around them. They felt soothing and comforting. All I had known the past hour was empty darkness, so their light was captivating. I let out a long breath and stood up. They seemed to be leading somewhere, and since I had made no headway in getting out of here on my own, I figured I might as well give them a shot. I followed their trail for a while. I can't exactly tell you how long, because I forgot to look at my phone. It could have been 30 minutes, or it could have been 3 hours. All I knew was that there was something at the end of this trail, and I needed to know what it was. The trail ended in a clearing, or what I thought was a clearing. All I remember was finally taking a step out from the forest, but my foot didn't land back on the ground. And after that, everything went black. I have no idea where I am now, and I have no idea if my words will even reach you. But I'm okay. I even made a few friends here. Their names are Will and Jack, and they said the lights brought us together so we could go exploring. They even gave me my own lantern, and we're having a lot of fun. I'd like it if you'd come join us. Just step off the path and follow the lights. But don't worry, because even if you don't, we'll come and get you. And we're gonna have so much fun. I'm sure many of you have heard of the alluring lights in the forest, known as will-o-the-wisps, the foolish fire that is friendly and playful, leading adventurers to find buried treasure or bringing them to a fairy kingdom for rewards, while other people believe them to be bad omens, appearing as a warning before something tragic or marking the spot where someone has died. These are not friendly or playful lights. They are malevolent in nature and will lead people off the beaten path towards danger. Many travelers who have become transfixed on them have vanished, never to be seen again. My friend Will is the proprietor of these lights. When he was alive, he was a blacksmith who lived a rather mischievous and evil life, the deeds of which aren't fully described, so feel free to use your imagination. When he died and got to the gates of heaven, he met with St. Peter, who told him that because of his lifestyle and all that he had done, he was not permitted to enter heaven. But he was willing to give him a second chance, a second life, if you will, to reform and repent for his misdeeds. However, once Will was back among the living, he changed nothing. In fact, he got even worse, continuing to live his life of mischief and debauchery to his heart's content. Because of this, when he died and went back to St. Peter, he was cursed to roam the earth forever, never to be welcomed by heaven or hell. The devil, on the other hand, was impressed by Will's commitment to his lifestyle and gave him a coal from hell to keep himself warm during the cold nights. But Will had other plans with this coal and decided to make it into a torch so he could continue to live out his mischief by luring innocent travelers into danger by offering a guiding light in the dark. Since then, the embers from his torch have become the Will-O-The-Wisps, the pleasant tales of treasure and fairies misleading poor and unsuspecting travelers right to him. Some of the lights I saw came from Will's torch, while the others came from Jack's lantern. When I say jack-o'-lantern, I'm sure the image of a carved pumpkin set up on a porch and lit up comes to mind. But do you know why we make them? Jack-o'-lanterns have been used for centuries to ward off evil spirits. It is said that spirits were afraid of this symbol and would avoid it at all costs. But again, I have to ask you, why? My friend Jack is the reason why. And just like Will, he didn't lead the best life. Jack was known in life as Stingy Jack, and was also a devilish trickster. One day, he invited the devil to have a drink with him, saying that he would sell his soul for a drink. He then convinced the devil to turn into a coin that Jack could use to trick the bartender to pay for their drinks. And once the devil obliged, Jack decided to keep the coin and put it in his pocket next to a silver crucifix, which prevented the devil from turning back to his original form. And he was then just trapped in Jack's pocket. Jack did eventually let the devil go, but it was under the condition that the devil would not bother him for one more year, and that if Jack died before this time was up, the devil could not claim his soul. 1 year later, the devil returned to take Jack to hell. Jack, being hungover, had no idea what he could do. So he relented, and they began the journey down to hell. Until they passed an apple tree, and Jack made one final request of the devil. He asked for a single apple from the tree to help sober him up and be his last meal. The devil, seeing the blissful irony in the request, agreed and went to go grab an apple for him. But once the devil had climbed the tree, Jack pulled out a knife and carved a cross into the tree, trapping the devil in its branches. Again, Jack made a deal with the devil. this time to be left alone for 10 more years. And again, if he died within that time frame, the devil could not claim his soul. The devil, having no other options, agreed. And just like that, Jack carved away the cross and was on his way. Soon after this second deal, Jack died. And with the devil not being able to claim his soul, Jack went up to heaven. But when he got there, God refused to let such an unsavory person in and sent him down to hell regardless of the deal. The devil was not exactly happy when Jack showed up and refused to let him into hell, since, per their agreement, he could not claim his soul. So he sent Jack back to the living world in the dark of night, forced to wander there for all eternity. But the devil was also feeling generous in the moment and gave Jack a single burning coal to light his way. The only downside to this was that it was constantly burning his hands. When Jack got back to the living world, he hollowed out a turnip and put the coal inside, making himself a lantern. Because of the history Jack had with the devil, his presence frightened other spirits, and his lantern served as a warning for all of them to stay away. In Ireland and Scotland, people began to take notice of this, and started to carve faces into turnips and potatoes, then placing them on windowsills or by doors to scare wandering evil spirits away. In England, they preferred to use beets. And once immigrants came from these countries to America, they brought the tradition with them and found that pumpkins were more abundant and made the perfect jack-o'-lanterns. Now, some legends will tell you that in order to atone for his sins, he tries to lead souls to their resting places or to help travelers find their way home. But none of that is accurate. Jack is still the same mischievous devil, and he just wanted some company. After all, an eternity of wandering can get pretty lonely. That's why we're all so happy you'll be joining us soon. With that, our story comes to a close. Don't forget to stay on the trail next time you go out. And don't follow any floating lights. Unless you think they might lead to treasure, of course. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a like and tell me what you thought in the comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe and ring that dead bell so you know when the next audio log is out. And until then, wherever each and every one of you are, stay safe and stay curious.